Well, it's been absolutely beautiful experience to be here, experiencing the Women's Cooperative, how it was founded, what started off as just something among a small group of women into this development of food, pottery, embroidery. It's just magical how just with a few women growing into this. It's also a great example of sustainable business.
Yeah.
A small business growing into a medium-sized business.
Yeah.
But some of the ways in which the U.S. government is assisting is also through the Millennium Challenge Corporation Compact, which I was really excited about. Identifying the hinders of economic growth. And this is a great example of preserving culture and heritage, just even looking and experiencing and touching, and also passing down to the next generation of Belizeans and the world. And also underserved, vulnerable communities, talking about inclusion and respect for where we all come from. We all come from somewhere, right? But the Millennium Challenge Corporation Compact is exciting for me because it is customized to Belize in finding sustainable development assistance to this specific country and figuring out what does Belize need, and it's in terms of education, in terms of energy, in terms of small and medium-sized enterprises. So it really has a deep impact here.
What are your visions to educate women and empower them about equity and feminism?
Well, this one is something that hits home for me. Like I said, I have a little one, a young daughter at home, and it's no wonder to have that GBV, the gender-based violence candlelight vigil, as my first public event arriving in Belize. And I got a little emotional because as I looked around, everyone's holding a candle, and survivors all around us that has experienced domestic violence in some shape or form. And the statistics of 1 in 2 women experience it in one way or another in their life. 1 in 2. Like, this needs to be addressed. And one of the ways in which the U.S. government is through promoting good governance. It's working with the government of Belize to ensure transparency and accountability. And across the board, stepping up in women's empowerment and also addressing, it's not fun. Tackling human rights together. It's being able to have a human rights report, tackling trafficking in persons, gender-based violence, vulnerable communities, and that is important that we each one of us stand up and use our voice to address the issues.
I know that you've experienced Belize in many different ways, and we do have vulnerable communities that are outside of the indigenous norm and indigenous spectrum. What are some problems or issues or social issues that we share with the United States that you think that we can help to fix together?
I think, again, climate change.
Okay.
and I love, the Blue Bond Initiative. It's so creative in terms of managing its debt, but taking huge strides and leaders in fighting and addressing climate change, taking on huge strides in conservation efforts. That to me is goal setting, and President Biden from the very beginning of the administration has realized we have to work as a community, as international partners in fighting climate change, and has stepped up and said the goal is to reduce the Paris Agreement agreement goals to be able to reduce carbon emissions by 40% by 2030 and net zero carbon emissions by 2050. So these are things that we all have they might look at numbers 2030, we can 2050, like we can't even think about that, but we all, as a sense of our own belonging and responsibility in our community, whether it's recycling, conservation of water, whether it's things that we can set in the right direction. I think when you read and you research the history, everything about the blue hole climate, all the, I think the one thing is the conversations and the people you meet. You can't put that in writing.
Yeah.
And that's what's so beautiful about the richness of the diversity here. It's such a source of strength and creativity. And just being here, for example, at the Women's Cooperative, listening to the story of how this came about.
Yeah.
It's those like unique experiences, that conversations that you have that you will cherish and you'll bring with you everywhere you go.